But yeah, so this video is called Why Call of Duty Will Never Be Saved. It is by someone named 808 Savion. I'm guessing it's going to be incredibly negative, and I'm guessing it's going to be about skill-based matchmaking. I could be wrong. We will see. But
Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has just been announced, and I think it's safe to say that people are hyped about it. We got responses
most
such
hype
as
I've seen in a while.
Cooking. We are so back. I'm about to explode all over my monitor, and I can't
that's
even lie.
aggressive.
Treyarch have been cooking on this rollout so far with all these
Yeah, they
obscure,
have.
almost spooky teasers, and this guy even me hyped. Just the other day, the supposed Call of Duty killer known as X Defiant just came out, and like a day later, Call of Duty dropped a BO6 announcement on them.
I still wonder whether or not that was on purpose or not. Like,
Pretty much fried any amount of hype that game has. So yeah, I think this Call of Duty announcement is definitely having people in a chokehold. But as much as I'm excited to see what happens with this game, I honestly don't think Call of Duty will make the comeback that everyone wants it to have. And I don't think the game
does it need a comeback? Like,
will be saved anytime soon. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting out, we got the Call of Duty cycle, and I'm sure that's something that a lot of y'all have heard about. And this is not.
If he says that this is a new thing in the more recent Call of Duty games, he's very, very wrong.
But I think it's something that should be mentioned. For the majority of the franchise, Call of Duty games have been released every single year and typically cycle between different developers who develop each game. You got Infinity Ward, who developed the Modern Warfare series, Treyarch, who is most known for developing the Black Ops series. Finally, you got Sledgehammer Games, who came a little bit later, and
they kind of just do everything.
Developing Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty World War II, and Vanguard. And then there's also Raven Studios, who helps out with the games as well. So yeah, all these developers are the reason that we get a new Call of Duty every single year. The main pro is that we obviously get a new take on Call of Duty every year. If a game does suck, there's always hope that the next Call of Duty will be better.
Honestly, I can't think of another game that comes out every year that's as different as Call of Duty is. Like, if you take Call of Duty and compare it to like FIFA or Madden or any other like game that comes out yearly, there's no game that has as much change as Call of Duty does. Like, I think the one that you could compare it most to is like Assassin's Creed. A completely different type of game, but like that one comes out, or did come out, nearly yearly, and they were kind of different.
We have to wait very long for it to come out. The bad side, on the other hand, is that the games run the risk of being rushed, releasing with poor quality, or even releasing in an unfinished state, which is something we have seen before many times. Now, back in like what people considered the golden age of like Modern Warfare 2, BO1, and BO2, and all of that, I feel like they actually managed to do a pretty good job. Well, yeah, it was a little bit rocky at the time, and the games definitely did have a mix.
I think people look at old Call of Duty game with rose-colored glasses. Like Modern Warfare 2, like all of these games were super broken. And they took way longer to get fixed.
Including Black Ops 2 even, which is considered to be one of the best Call of Duties nowadays. At least the games were released in a finished state. And looking back at it, most players
were they?
Would consider the COD games around this time to be some of the best that their franchise has ever seen. Not long after though, things started to take a turn. Call of Duty Ghost released, and it wasn't even like it went in some crazy direction. People just thought the game sucked. After that though, the series started experimenting a lot more. Advanced Warfare released, and it was actually set way into the future, unlike BO2, which was just a little bit experimental, but not to that degree. Black Ops 3 continued the futuristic theme, and yeah, people kind of hated it at the time.
I loved Black Ops 3. One of my favorite Call of Duty games.
Little did we know, this would be one of the last games before Call of Duty started to lose its character.
Okay, so is this where we go into skill-based matchmaking?
At this point, the quality really started to dip, and people were clinging onto these yearly releases, hoping that the next game would be better than the last. Now, because of these yearly releases, this caused a strange phenomenon that people call the Call of Duty cycle, which has been a term for the majority of the franchise. So this cycle is known to typically start with a trailer. The trailers get everyone hyped up for the next Call of Duty, and therefore
this is how Call of Duty sells games, by the way. Like, this is not new. This is not just with the new games. This is always
wishes to pre-order the game, and this is typically where you see all these people glaze whichever developer is currently making the game. This is around the time where you start to see comments like, "We are so back and Call of Duty is saved." This leads us into the game's release, and this is where typically goes left. Usually right after launch is where you start to see an army of angry players who are
No. You get like 2 weeks where people love the game. You're missing the 2 weeks where people love the game. And then people start to complain about skill-based matchmaking, the maps, and everything that's broken in the game.
Upset with the game.
But like 1 to 2 weeks are good.
Even if the game isn't actually that bad or does improve over time, a lot of people will still hate it for almost the entirety of its life cycle. A good example of this would actually be Modern Warfare 2019. It's actually one of the only CODs that I haven't bought on release within the past decade. And when it released, I saw it got so much hate, and for a while after, it wasn't until a while after where I saw people start to say like, "Hey, this game was actually pretty good."
I actually really disagree with this. I think for the most part, like people hated on like Piccadilly as a map and stuff, but I think for the most part, Modern Warfare 2019 had a really high praise, saying that like this was the Call of Duty that's bringing it back. And then afterwards, people were like, okay, the time to kill is too fast. I actually, this is like, I disagree with this. I could be wrong.
After a game
but
releases and people hate it, the next Call of Duty gets announced and the cycle continues, starting with people
also the Call of Duty cycle changed when they introduced Warzone.
blazing the next Call of Duty trailer all over again. Now, in my opinion, I feel like a big reason Call of Duty can't be saved is because of its own players. This kind of idea is something that I talked about in my last video, but in the case of Call of Duty, there's a lot more to it. Every single year, I feel like I hear hundreds of people say that this is Call of Duty's last chance. I mean, let's be real.
Every year.
I honestly think at this point, Call of Duty could keep releasing the same games for the next 10 years, and they're still going to be going strong, even if people say they hate them. It seems like we like to say that these games are ass and unfinished, but we still buy them every year, even if they raise the price. I mean, even Mutahar just made a video titled, "This franchise has one chance left," and honestly, nothing he said in the video was really wrong.
Okay, you got to remember when you see YouTube videos, when you see titles, when you see thumbnails, they're made to get clicks. And saying Call of Duty has one last chance is going to get a lot more clicks than saying this Call of Duty game might be good. Right? So like that's why those titles exist. It's not because people literally think Call of Duty has, man, if they butcher this one, Call of Duty as a franchise, literally the biggest selling game every single year is screwed. No, like no.
Or anything. But as far as the title itself, I feel like that's just not true at all. But let's go back for a second. When Black Ops 3 came out, a lot of people actually didn't like it, especially a lot of old players who have been playing Call of Duty for a long time at that point. I mean, this was back when everyone hated the EXO movement and double jumping and all that.
Yeah,
it's just the whole
the EXO movement sucked compared to Black Ops 3 movement. I called the EXO movement pogo stick movement because it was like look at this. Look where he is. It's pogo stick.
Overly futuristic theme in general. People just thought the games were getting too wild and unrealistic compared to the old classic Call of Duty. And on top of that, they announced the third futuristic game in a row, Infinite Warfare.
That was a
mistake.
Was
a little bit different because instead of hating it after release,
I think if this game didn't come out and we got 2 boots on the ground games after this, the third game after that would have been a jetpack Call of Duty game. I think because they had 3 in a row, people had just had enough of it. You need to mix it up, and I think you need to mix it up frequently.
Everyone hated it before it even launched, and I'm pretty sure it was like the most disliked video on all of YouTube at the time.
I think
that one though, the whole futuristic
like
thing
next to like Justin Bieber or something like that. I think it was
that got announced, and everyone was hyped because it was like the return to OG Call of Duty that everyone was waiting for. I mean, it was realistic, it was boots on the ground. What could possibly go wrong?
It was World War II.
Hated that shit when it came out, and people say it was one of the worst Call of Duties of all time.
No,
I feel like this is especially the point where people have just been constantly complaining about every COD that came out for years, and it started to drag on, but people will still buy it. Basically, since Black Ops 3, I don't think there was a single game that the majority of people could look back on and say, yeah, that was a good Call of Duty.
Modern Warfare 2019 and Cold War. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say those 2.
Except for maybe like Modern Warfare 2019, but it seems like it took a while for people to even like that game. And honestly,
no, it's the other way around. People hated it over time.
And this isn't even to say that all of these Call of Duties are bad, because there's still some people who like these games. Even I thought a couple of them were alright. But generally, it seems like most people tend to say that Call of Duty hasn't been great since like Black Ops 3. Yeah, after almost a whole decade, people still expect the next Call of Duty game to save the series for God knows why. The sad part is that Activision 1000% knows this and takes advantage of it too. They know that they can get away. People will still buy it, and I think they definitely take advantage of that by literally tricking and manipulating their own players. Back when Black Ops 4 was announced, we were supposed to get not just one, but multiple years worth of support and updates for the game. They even promised all these new features for the zombies mode that people were looking forward to, but after that year was up, it was a straight
I forgot about that.
And several features that they mentioned never even came into the game at all. Even with the new Modern Warfare 3, it was leaked by like reliable sources that the game would basically just be a $70 expansion pack of Modern Warfare 2. In the last minute, they decided to patch it all up, and they claimed that it was a full experience that had been in the works for several years. On top of borderline lying, I'm pretty sure that they directly use nostalgia they know people have to market these games. If you've ever wondered why 90% of Call of Duty games,
what's wrong with marketing with nostalgia? Like, does he not realize that there's been like 6 versions of Nuketown? Like every Call of Duty game does this.
Games are tied to an existing title. And while almost every game is a Modern Warfare or a Black Ops game, and they keep stretching it on and on and on, that's probably why. I mean, we got 6 Black Ops games and 2 completely separate versions of the Modern Warfare series, and we hardly ever see anything outside of those existing series. Now, it's not like it's
we actually talked about that.
I feel like they also take advantage of nostalgia that misleads players. After we had the whole futuristic era of Call of Duty, when World War II was announced, I remember they mentioned that they brought back boots on the ground.
I think the dev build time on Modern Warfare 3 was 16 months. I could be wrong about that, but I remember reading something along those lines.
Gameplay to get people hyped as if that hasn't been a staple in Call of Duty this entire fucking time. When the new Modern Warfare 3 was being announced, they said that all of the launch maps would be some sort of classic maps that everyone loved returning. Little did we know, we wouldn't even be getting any original maps until after launch, which is wild. And they want to call it a full experience that has been in the works for several years. If that was the case, they wouldn't have been releasing those maps after launch. Even with the new Black Ops 6 game coming out, you got them.
What I find interesting when we compare Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3 is Modern Warfare 3 did use a lot of like remakes and like remake weapons, remake maps, things along those lines. But the post-launch support has been so much better after it. Like Modern Warfare 2 came out and it was just like a ghost town. Like nothing new was adding into the game, like at all.
Saying we are so back. The thing is though is that yeah, maybe the game will be decent, but at the same time it's not like all the things that people hate about Call of Duty are just going to magically disappear. This game is still going to have overpriced microtransactions, probably still going to have skill-based matchmaking, and even if the gameplay itself is good, I can almost guarantee that it's probably not going to feel anything like old Call of Duty, even though they market it and make it seem like that's the case. I mean, the marketing and hype building for this game is amazing, don't get me wrong. They brought back the old Black Ops guy in the cover. They're doing all this cool promotional stuff, but I mean, all it took was seeing the old Black Ops guy in the cover for people to start drooling over the new game, saying that it's going to save Call of Duty. Like, come on.
I think that's more so because people want a Black Ops game, right? Like it's been 4 years now since we've had a Black Ops game. Like people just want that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Y'all are just making it so easy for them to take y'all's money. And I mean, it's one thing if you genuinely like these like past few Call of Duty games that have been coming out and you're excited to see more of that. But I don't see why you would expect anything different than like the past 8 years of Call of Duty games. You see the thing?
Expect a Treyarch game. Expect a Treyarch game. That's what you should expect.
Is though is that they don't need people to like the game at all, and that's why every single year they go so hard on pre-orders. They can put 99% of their effort into the marketing, which is how they end up making so much of their money before anyone's even touched the game. And the pre-orders, they try to lure you in with some like exclusive skin or whatever it is, just so you can put the money down on the game before it comes out. So as long as people see these trailers and covers and are like, oh my god, Call of Duty is so bad, once they get their pre-orders, they're already set. They don't need to deliver a fully polished or even finished game, because I mean, why would they? And I mean, look, there is hope for the next Call of Duty, and it honestly does look pretty promising. I'm pretty sure this is like the first Call of Duty that's had this much development time in a very long time. Normally most Call of Duty games that come out are completely rushed, which is why we end up getting a whole lot of garbage. But I mean, with this game, if they had like 4 years to develop it, there's really no excuse. On top of that, it's another game developed by Treyarch, which is one of the most loved studios in Call of Duty. So yeah, this game definitely does have potential.
Like I said, 2 weeks after it launches, people will be mad at it. Yeah, and it's the longest developed Call of Duty game ever, I believe. Like all of the other ones were like 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. Yeah, I believe ever.
Be a great Call of Duty. It also equally has a good chance to be just straight dookie, but I mean, it won't matter if people already pre-ordered the game. Then again, even if it is good, does that really mean the games after that will be good as well? Will one good finished game save the rest of the franchise from releasing these unfinished games? For real though, I think they know exactly what we want in a Call of Duty game. In fact, they've already released it, and that game is none other than Call of Duty Mobile.
Why do I always hear
pop-ups and microtransactions? The game itself is basically a Call of Duty player's dream. The problem is that it's a mobile game.
It's a mobile game and it plays like a mobile game.
The reason that we will probably never get an official game like that is because if they did, it would be too OP. Literally everyone would just stay on the game, because if they released anything worse than that, no one would continue to play it. The only way I could ever see a
everyone says this anytime I see one of these videos,
if people actually stop playing these yearly releases and they just decided to make some sort of free or live service type of Call of Duty that just continues to get updates. With that being said, again, I'm not saying that all of these Call of Duties are complete. There will always be some games that people like more than others, but in general, I don't think Call of Duty can be saved the way people want it to be, at least unless people just stop buying these Call of Duties before they launch. But yeah, let me know what y'all think, because I'm curious to see what y'all think in the comments.
Okay, everyone always says this every single year. Don't pre-order Call of Duty. Just don't do it. It's going to change the way the game... It's not. It's not. Call of Duty makes like, I want to say like maybe a tenth of its income off of the actual sale of the game, and then like the net rest 90% off of microtransactions. It's not going to make a difference.
I got a new channel, by the way, with some extra content in case y'all want to check that out. But yeah, if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and sub. And yeah, peace.
Yeah, so like a lot of what he said is true there. Like when it comes to the Call of Duty cycle and things like that, as I said, every 2 weeks after a game launched, people start hating it, and then the better the game is, the longer that honeymoon period lasts, the more things there are to grind, the longer that honeymoon period lasts. It's what it is, and the better games, generally the Treyarch games, do better longer. That's pretty much all there is to it. So I don't know. What do you guys think?